Hello students, today the lecture is on a gynecological malignancy, that is endometrial carcinoma. We also call it as cancer of the uterus or uterine cancer. As it is a big chapter, we have to decide the objectives. So under which we have to study the whole topic. So objectives of this whole lecture is introduction, then epidemiology, risk factors, protective factors, classification, spread, clinical presentation, then investigations, staging and grading, treatment, follow-up, recurrence, prognosis, prevention, and finally screening. Now, introduction of endometrial carcinoma. As we all know, it is carcinoma of the endometrial lining of the uterus. Endometrial cancer has recently emerged as the more frequently encountered gynecological cancer, accounting for 20 to 25% of all genital cancers in the developed countries, not only because of the longer survival of the woman, but mainly because of the marked decline in cervical cancer by a screening program. In developing countries including India, the incidence has remained low as 5 to 7% of all genital cancers. Cervical cancer continues to predominate. So, it is most common gynecological malignancy in postmenopausal women, that is majority of endometrial cancer is seen in 55 to 70 years age group. 20 to 25% of cases occur in perimenopausal women and only 5% of cases develop in women younger than 40 years. It is fourth most common malignancy in women following breast, bowel and lungs worldwide. Majority are histologically of adenocarcinoma variety. Then epidemiology. Most common gynecological malignancy, it is 8th leading site of cancer related mortality worldwide. 2 to 3% of women develop it in lifetime. As I told earlier, it is disease of mainly postmenopausal women, that is in most of the cases, but 20 to 25% cases it occurs in perimenopausal age. 15 to 25% of postmenopausal with bleeding until unless proved otherwise have endometrial cancer. Mean age of presentation is 60 years, uncommon before age of 40 years and even after 80 years of age. And then we have to know the risk factors or predisposing factors for endometrial cancer. First, we have to know that any agent or factor that rises the level or time of exposure to estrogen, that is leading to hyperestrogenism either by time or by level, it is a risk factor for endometrial carcinoma. So, older age, early menarche, late menopause, nulliparity, unopposed estrogens as in obesity, PCOS and hormone replacement therapy. What happens in obesity? In obesity, the level of serum sex hormone binding protein reduces and allows free estrogen to circulate in the body. Moreover, a peripheral conversion of epiandrostenedione is aromatized to estrogen or estrone in the peripheral fat. So, level of estrogen rises. And what in cases of PCOS? So, what happens in PCOS? In PCOS, there is chronic and ovulatory cycles. So, always there is excess of estrogen. And hormone replacement therapy, when we are giving the hormone from outside. Then chronic tamoxifen use. Tamoxifen given to women suffering from breast cancer, and it increases the risk of endometrial hyperplasia and so on cancer to 2 to 3 folds. Other group like raloxifene has no adverse effect on the endometrium. Then previous pelvic irradiation. Women suffering from hypertension and diabetes mellitus. Then history of other estrogen dependent neoplasms like breast cancer or ovarian neoplasm, estrogen producing ovarian cancer. Then family history of endometrial carcinoma, then genetic Lynch type 2 syndrome. What happens in Lynch type 2 syndrome? and there is always chances of endometrial carcinoma development is there, and it has genetic predisposition. What happens in familial Lynch type 2 syndrome, the woman is suffering from anorectal and breast cancers, and they are also likely to suffer from endometrial cancer. Then estrogen secreting ovarian cancer, either theca cell tumor or granulosal cell tumors. So these are the different risk factors regarding endometrial carcinoma development. Now comes protective factors. Protective factors are opposed to risk factors. Like any agent or factor that lowers the level or time of exposure to estrogen is a protective factor against endometrial carcinoma. So multiparity, smoking, then combined oral contraceptive pills and physical activity. Then comes classification. It is divided as type 1 and type 2. In type 1, there is always associated hyperestrogenism. It is associated with hyperplasia. Patients usually perimenopausal. Estrogen and progesterone receptors are present and they are common. Usually endometrioid and mucinous subtypes are there, and it has favorable prognosis. So it occurs mostly in obese person with excess of endogenous or exogenous hormones, estrogens, and histologically it is endometrioid adenocarcinoma. But type 2, it is not related to hyperestrogenism. It is usually atrophic it is found in usually atrophic endometrium, then found in postmenopausal patients. Estrogen and progesterone receptors are uncommon. It is usually serous or clear cell subtype histologically, and without any evidence of hyperestrogenism, as I told you, and it is associated with poorer prognosis and is aggressive in nature. Now classification based on histology. So these are adenocarcinoma, most common in 80% of cases, or endometrioid adenocarcinoma, then adenosquamous carcinoma in 15% of cases, then papillary serous carcinoma in or clear cell carcinoma in 4 to 5% cases overall. Now coming to spread of the tumor. So spread is usually the direct extension to adjacent organs. It is most common type of or mode of spread by penetration of the myometrium and eventually the serosa of the uterus, the cervix, fallopian tube, and ultimately the vagina and parametrium may be invaded. Then lymphatics. Lymphatic channels pass directly from the fundus of the uterus to the para-aortic nodes. It can spread to the obturator nodes and other pelvic lymph nodes. Then transtubally or transtubal passage of exfoliated malignant cells into adjoining ovary, pelvis and peritoneal cavity, and hematogenous spread. Most common sites are lungs, also liver, brain and bone. So this is the diagrammatic representation. Most metastases occur in adjacent structures and peritoneum. In advanced cases, distant metastases do occur, most commonly in lungs, but occasionally in liver, vertebra or other bones, and in supraclavicular lymph nodes. Now clinical presentation. Patient profile. So as we know, as I told earlier, a patient profile is usually postmenopausal lady, nullipara, having history of early menarche and delayed menopause, obese, hypertensive, and or having diabetes mellitus type 2. Now to continue with clinical presentation, in 5% of cases it is asymptomatic, maybe 7 to 10% to begin with. The most common presentation of endometrial cancer is in the form of postmenopausal bleeding or discharge. It can be abnormal bleeding like menorrhagia, postcoital bleeding, intermenstrual bleeding, blood-stained vaginal discharge, and if cervical stenosis is present, there can be hematometra, pyometra, purulent vaginal discharge leading to colicky abdominal pain. On per vagina, then signs of endometrial carcinoma. So first, as we know, the patient profile is like postmenopausal, diabetic, hypertensive, obese. There is and it is found by clinical history and examination. Then pallor of varying degrees are found. Then pelvic examination में we do first per speculum examination, in which there is normal looking cervix, blood or purulent discharge found to be coming out through external os. Then per vaginal examination में uterus either atrophic or normal or enlarged. Uterus is mobile unless it is in late stages. Then we do per rectal examination and regional lymph nodes and breast examination also is done. The findings are can be size of uterus can be of different. Bulky uterus is due to growth itself or due to associated fibroid or pyometra. Then coming to diagnosis. Majority are diagnosed early when surgery alone may be adequate for cure. So diagnosis to start with, we have to take a proper history and do a physical examination. We can do labs like CBC. Then we have to do transvaginal ultrasound to see the endometrial thickness. Then we do endometrial biopsy by various ways. First is endometrial aspiration from the uterine cavity for screening of high risk cases. The aspiration is done with a Pipele curette or vibra aspirator done as an OPD procedure. It is simple, cost effective method to aspirate the endometrial cavity. Then fractional curettage is much more sensitivity, where we do obtain endocervical scraping before dilating the cervix. Then it is followed by cervical dilatation and curettage from the whole endometrial cavity. 2 specimens are examined separately for the presence of cancer. Then comes hysteroscopy and endometrial biopsy. It is gold standard for diagnosis of endometrial carcinoma. On hysteroscopy, one visualizes the entire uterine lining and obtain biopsy from the suspicious area, so it is much more targeted. It reduces the chances of missing a lesion. Even then, this is not 100% predictive. It is an early lesion can be missed. Some people have raised the concern regarding spilling of cancer cell into the peritoneal cavity during hysteroscopy, but it has not been proved till date, and still it is gold standard. Then comes transvaginal ultrasound. The findings suggestive of endometrial carcinoma in transvaginal ultrasound: endometrial thickness of more than 5 mm. Then hyperechogenic endometrium with irregular outline are found. Increased vascularity with low vascular resistance. In Doppler ultrasound, a low resistance index of 0.37 to 0.7 or below is seen in endometrial malignant lesion. Intrauterine fluid can be found, or usually it is found. In a menopausal woman with vaginal bleeding, even an endometrial thickness of less than 4 mm has the risk of cancer, and the entire endometrium should be subjected to a histopathological study. Then comes pap smear. Pap smear is not diagnostic, but a finding of abnormal glandular cell of unknown significance leads to further investigation. Abnormal pap smear is the presentation of 1 to 5% of endometrial carcinoma cases. Endocervical curettage is required to evaluate the cervical involvement. Then comes pre-operative evaluation, where we do physical examination. Then blood में we do CBC, postprandial sugar, urea creatinine, serum electrolyte, LFTs and serum CA 125. This tumor marker is raised above 35 international unit per ml in a case of endometrial cancer, suggest extrauterine spread of the disease. Then in urine we see proteins, sugar and pus cells, ECG, chest X-ray, pelvic ultrasound, abdominopelvic CT scan, as it has a predictable rate of 85% in studying the extent of the lesion spread. Hypodensity in the myometrium suggests myometrial infiltrate. The pelvic and para-aortic nodes are defined if enlarged to more than 1 cm. CT is superior to MRI in detecting ascites, bowel and omental metastasis, but radiation exposure is the disadvantage. Then comes MRI. MRI is superior to CT in detecting myometrial involvement and nodal enlargement with a 90% detection rate and without a radiation hazard. Normally, between the endometrial and myometrial junction, a low intensity zone exists, and if this zone is intact, myometrial invasion can be ruled out and the tumor is staged as stage 1. Then comes PET scan. PET CT scan reveals a metabolic activity in the tissue and lymph nodes. Although it is a gold standard for staging, but is not indicated as a routine pre-op investigation due to radiation hazards and limited availability of this facility. There are differential diagnoses like senile endometritis, tubercular endometritis, atypical hyperplasia, endometrial polyp. These all present as abnormal bleeding. Then coming to staging of the tumor. So, FIGO staging. FIGO staging is based on surgical and pathological evaluation. Stage 0. Stage 0 is where there is atypical hyperplasia. Then comes stage 1. Stage 1 when tumor is confined to the corpus uteri or uterus. It is again divided as 1A, 1B and 1C. 1A when it is limited to the endometrium, then 1B when there is myometrial involvement but invasion is less than half of myometrium, 1C where invasion is more than half of myometrium. Then comes stage 2 where tumor invades cervical stroma but does not extend beyond the uterus. That is extension to cervix only. 2A and 2B. 2A involves extracervical glands only. 2B when there is invasion of cervical stroma. Then comes stage 3. Stage 3 is spread adjacent to uterus. 3A again tumor invades serosa or adnexa or positive peritoneal cytology. So, serosa of corpus uteri and or adnexa is involved. 3B when there is vaginal and or parametrial invasion. 3C is metastasis to pelvic and or para-aortic lymph nodes. Again 3C is divided as C1, 3C1 and 3C2. 3C1 is positive pelvic lymph nodes. 3C2 is positive para-aortic lymph nodes with or without positive pelvic lymph nodes. Then finally stage 4 when there is spread further from the uterus. Tumor invades bladder and or bowel mucosa and or distant metastasis. 4B involves bladder and or bowel mucosa and 4B is distant metastasis including intra-abdominal metastasis and or inguinal lymph nodes. This is pictorial representation of FIGO staging. Then comes grading of tumor or different grades. So, grades में there is grade 1, 2 and 3. Grade 1 when there is well differentiated gland forms are there and mitotic figures are moderately numerous. Then grade 2, what happens in grade 2? Grade 2 में there is poorly differentiated glands. Gland forms are much less predominant and many deposits consist of infiltrating single cell columns or solid masses. And lastly grade 3 when there is this type consists of solid masses of malignant cells of varying sizes and shapes with little or no stroma. Mitosis are numerous. Now coming to treatment part. Treatment part is again as for any other carcinoma. Here again treatment is divided as surgical treatment, then chemotherapy, radiation therapy and hormonal therapy. So, surgery. The main modality of treatment in carcinoma endometrium is surgery if the patient is medically fit for surgery. Based on tumor grade and depth of myometrial invasion, surgical may we do TAH plus BSO and pelvic washings plus minus pelvic or para-aortic lymph node dissection or lymphadenectomy. Stage 1 may do TAH plus BSO and washings. It is total abdominal hysterectomy. Stage 2 and early 3A there is TAH, BSO and washings plus lymphadenectomy. It can be radical hysterectomy and stage 4 when there is no surgical option. Surgical staging, abdominal hysterectomy, bilateral salpingo-oophorectomy, omentectomy, pelvic as well as para-aortic lymph node sampling remains the cornerstone in the management of early endometrial carcinoma. Omentectomy is only if the histopathological report suggestive of non-endometrioid variety it is done. Now coming to hormone therapy, progestins for recurrent diseases we give. Medroxyprogesterone acetate 1 gram weekly or 200 milligram orally daily, and 17 alpha hydroxyprogesterone or norethistérone 1 gram IM weekly. Norethistérone is stronger than MDPA and suppresses estrogen receptors. 30% response with hormone is reported, especially with lung metastasis. Tamoxifen 10 milligram twice daily is also useful in reducing estrogen receptors under chemotherapy. It is done in advanced, recurrent or metastatic diseases, and tamoxifen is usually drug of choice. Then doxorubicin platinum and carboplatin cisplatin are under trial for chemotherapy. Treatment to continue comes the radiation therapy or radiotherapy. Indications are patients medically unfit for surgery, surgically inoperable diseases, those with high risk of recurrence, and stage 3 late or stage 4 diseases. Contraindications are pelvic kidney, pyometra, pelvic abscesses, prior pelvic radiation, previous laparotomy and or adhesions. So, to summarize with stage-wise treatment of carcinoma of endometrium, if it is stage 1A, grade 1, 2 or 3, grade 1 only surgery, grade 2 or 3 surgery plus vaginal brachytherapy. Stage 1B, grade 1 or 2 surgery plus vaginal brachytherapy, and 1B with grade 3 surgery plus vaginal brachytherapy plus external beam radiotherapy to pelvis. So, surgery plus different forms of radiotherapy for stage 1 and all grades. Now, stage 2 where we do surgery plus external radiotherapy plus vaginal brachytherapy. Stage 3 में we do surgery plus external radiotherapy plus brachytherapy plus chemotherapy. And stage 4 is palliative radiotherapy, no surgery, palliative radiotherapy plus chemotherapy plus high dose of progesterone. Now follow-up. Follow-up is done by thorough physical examination, chest x-ray, regular serum CA 125 estimation, mammography, CT scan, MRI whenever indicated. Then it is to be done every 4 months for the first 2 years. Next 2 years it is done every 6 months, and thereafter we do it annually. Now coming to recurrent diseases. Most common site of recurrence is upper vagina and in pelvis. The metastasis occurs in the vaginal vault, lateral pelvic wall, lymph nodes, lungs, liver, brain and bones. Direct metastasis occurs mostly in women who have undergone surgery and postoperative pelvic radiotherapy. Postoperative vaginal vault radiotherapy reduces the recurrence in the vaginal vault. Majority present within 6 years of initial therapy. Management is by radiation therapy only for isolated recurrence. It can be done by hormonal therapy with tamoxifen, then by chemotherapy, and surgery is having very limited value or no value at all. Then coming to prognostic factors. Histological grading is the single most important prognostic factor. Then depth of myometrial invasion is second most important histological factor. Then prognostic factor. Then comes histological types. Then original tumor volume, pelvic lymph node involvement, extension to the cervix, adnexal metastasis, positive peritoneal washings. Now coming to screening and prevention. Screening में there is no effective screening test. Occasionally cervical smears like pap smears and this colposcopy, where we pap smears contain endometrial cancer cells or endometrial. Ultrasound thickness of more than 5 mm indicates the need for endometrial sampling. By knowing the screening, we can do prevention of endometrial carcinoma. By adding progesterone for 12 days in HRT, it reduces the risk of endometrial hyperplasia and finally cancer. Controlling obesity, blood pressure hypertension and diabetes. It helps to reduce the risk. Restricted use of estrogen after menopause in non-hysterectomized patients. Then women reporting any abnormal vaginal bleeding or discharge, they should see the doctor immediately. Screening of high risk women in postmenopausal period. Mirena is effective against simple endometrial hyperplasia. Combined OCPs reduce cancer risk by 40 to 50%. Tibolone also decreases the risk. The complete treatment of PCOS also avoids the risk. Women on tamoxifen needs a peripheral periodical ultrasound scanning to study the endometrial thickness. So these are the different preventive measures by which we screen the high risk women, and accordingly we do the prevention strategy. Thank you, and if you have any query you can question me. I am there to answer.